Sarah Mitchell had been working as a flight attendant for Skyline Airlines for 8 years. She took pride in her job and always tried to keep passengers happy during their flights. But today was different. Today, she was having the worst day of her life. Her morning started badly when her alarm didn't go off. She woke up late and had to rush to get ready for work. Then her car wouldn't start, so she had to take an expensive taxi to the airport. When she finally arrived at work, her supervisor told her she was being considered for layoffs because the airline was cutting costs. Sarah felt stressed and worried as she prepared for the afternoon flight from Chicago to Miami. The plane was completely full with 180 passengers. Many people seemed tired and grumpy. Some were complaining about delayed flights, others about lost luggage. The atmosphere in the cabin felt tense from the moment passengers started boarding. About an hour into the flight, Sarah noticed a man in seat 12A acting strangely. He was a middle-aged man with gray hair wearing simple clothes, just a plain white t-shirt and old jeans. He looked tired and hadn't shaved in a few days. What bothered Sarah was that he kept getting up and walking around the plane, looking into other sections. The man would stand up, walk slowly down the aisle, peek into first class, then come back to his seat. After sitting for just a few minutes, he would get up again and repeat the same behavior. Other passengers started noticing too. Some looked uncomfortable and worried. Sarah had been trained to watch for suspicious behavior after all the security concerns in recent years. This man's actions seemed very strange to her. Why was he constantly moving around? Why did he keep looking at different parts of the plane? Her stress from the morning made her feel more anxious about the situation. She decided to approach him politely. Walking over to his seat, Sarah put on her professional smile and said, "Sir, is everything all right? Do you need something? I noticed you've been walking around quite a bit." The man looked up at her with tired eyes. "I'm fine, thank you. Just stretching my legs," he said quietly. "I understand, sir, but for safety reasons we ask passengers to remain seated unless they need to use the restroom. Other passengers are getting concerned about the frequent movement," Sarah explained, trying to stay calm and professional. The man nodded, but didn't say much more. Sarah thought the problem was solved and walked away. But 10 minutes later, he was up again, this time walking toward the front of the plane where the cockpit was located. This made Sarah's heart race. In her training, she had learned that anyone approaching the cockpit area could be a serious security threat. She quickly walked over to stop him. "Sir, you cannot go up there. Please return to your seat immediately," she said firmly, her voice a bit louder than before. The man stopped and turned around. "I was just looking around. This is a nice plane," he said simply. "You need to go back to your seat now," Sarah insisted, feeling her patience running thin. The stress of her day, combined with this strange behavior, was making her feel overwhelmed. As the man slowly walked back to his seat, Sarah noticed other passengers staring and whispering among themselves. A woman across the aisle leaned over to her friend and said loudly enough for others to hear, "That man is acting really weird. I don't feel safe with him walking around like that." Sarah's training told her to report suspicious behavior to the captain, but she also didn't want to cause panic among the passengers. She decided to keep watching the man closely and take action if he got up again. Unfortunately, her worst fears came true just 20 minutes later. The man stood up once more and started walking toward the front of the plane. This time, Sarah had reached her breaking point. All the stress from her terrible morning, the fear about losing her job, and now, this passenger who wouldn't listen to her instructions. It all came together in a moment of poor judgment that would change everything. Sarah's face turned red with anger as she watched the man walking toward the cockpit area for the third time. She had asked him politely twice already, but he just wouldn't listen. In her mind, she thought he might be planning something dangerous. Her fear and frustration took over her professional training. She marched quickly up the aisle, her heels clicking loudly on the floor. Several passengers turned to look as she approached the man with obvious anger on her face. The entire cabin seemed to sense that something serious was about to happen. "I told you to stay in your seat," Sarah shouted, loud enough for half the plane to hear. "You're making everyone uncomfortable and you're violating safety regulations." The man turned around slowly, looking confused and surprised by her aggressive tone. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cause any trouble. I don't want to hear your excuses," Sarah interrupted, her voice getting even louder. "You've been acting suspiciously this entire flight, and I'm tired of your behavior." What happened next shocked everyone on the plane. In a moment of complete loss of control, Sarah raised her hand and slapped the man hard across his face. The sound echoed through the cabin like a gunshot. Every passenger gasped, and several people screamed in surprise. The man stumbled backward, holding his cheek where she had hit him. He looked absolutely stunned, as if he couldn't believe what had just happened. His eyes filled with hurt and confusion, but he didn't fight back or even raise his voice. "Ma'am, there's no need for violence," he said quietly, still holding his. "First, I think there's been a misunderstanding." But Sarah was too angry to listen. "Sit down and don't get up again, or I'll have you arrested when we land," she yelled. The entire cabin fell silent except for the sound of the plane's engines. Passengers stared in shock at what they had just witnessed. Many people pulled out their phones and started recording the incident. Some looked scared. Others looked angry at Sarah for her unprofessional behavior. An elderly woman in the front row stood up and said loudly, "Young lady, that was completely inappropriate. You can't hit passengers like that." A businessman in a suit shook his head and muttered, "I'm definitely reporting this to the airline. This is unacceptable." Sarah suddenly realized what she had done. The anger drained from her face and she felt sick to her stomach. She had just slapped a passenger in front of 180 witnesses. Her career was probably over, but her pride wouldn't let her apologize, so she just stood there trembling. The man she had slapped slowly walked back to his seat, still holding his cheek. He sat down quietly and didn't cause any more trouble for the rest of the flight. But the damage was already done. The other passengers continued whispering and taking pictures, and Sarah could hear them talking about reporting the incident. Another flight attendant, Jennifer, rushed over to Sarah. "What happened? Are you okay?" she whispered urgently. He was acting suspicious, walking around, approaching the cockpit area. "I had to do something," Sarah whispered back, trying to justify her actions even though she knew she was wrong. Jennifer looked worried. "Sarah, you can't hit passengers. This is really serious. We need to report this to the captain immediately." Sarah felt her world falling apart. She knew Jennifer was right, but she was too scared to face the consequences. "Can we just handle this quietly? Maybe the passengers won't say anything," she said desperately. "Look around, Sarah. Half of them are recording this with their phones. This is going to be all over social media within hours," Jennifer said sadly. As Sarah looked around the cabin, she could see angry and disappointed faces everywhere. Some passengers were typing on their phones, probably writing complaints to the airline. Others were still recording video, capturing every moment of the aftermath. She walked to the back of the plane, trying to hide from all the staring eyes. Her hands were shaking, and she felt like she might throw up. 8 years of hard work and dedication to her job were about to be destroyed because of one terrible moment of lost control. The man in seat 12A sat quietly for the remaining 2 hours of the flight. He didn't ask for anything, didn't complain, and didn't cause any more problems. He just sat there with a red mark on his face, occasionally touching the spot where Sarah had hit him. What Sarah didn't know was that this quiet, simple-looking man was about to turn her life completely upside down in ways she never could have imagined. When the plane finally landed in Miami, Sarah hoped the nightmare would end. But as passengers started leaving, many of them stopped to speak with her supervisor, Captain Rodriguez, who had come aboard to check on the situation. Jennifer had already told him what happened during the flight. "Ma'am, your flight attendant assaulted a passenger," said the elderly woman from the front row. "I saw it with my own eyes. It was completely unprovoked and unprofessional. Here's my video of the incident," said the businessman, showing his phone to Captain Rodriguez. "This needs to be investigated immediately." More and more passengers came forward with complaints and video evidence. Sarah watched in horror as her career crumbled before her eyes. She had never felt so humiliated and scared in her life. The man she had slapped was one of the last passengers to leave the plane. As he walked past Captain Rodriguez, he stopped briefly. "I don't want to cause any trouble," he said quietly. These things happen. People have bad days. Captain Rodriguez looked surprised by the man's calm and forgiving attitude. Sir, I'm very sorry for what happened. This behavior is not acceptable from our staff. May I have your name and contact information so we can follow up properly? The man hesitated for a moment, then simply said, My name is Robert Chen. But really, I don't want to make this into a big problem. After giving his contact information, Robert Chen walked away with his small carry-on bag, disappearing into the crowd at Miami International Airport. Captain Rodriguez watched him leave, thinking it was unusual for someone to be so calm after being assaulted by airline staff. Sarah, my office now, Captain Rodriguez said sternly. In the office, Sarah broke down crying. I'm so sorry, Captain. I don't know what came over me. He kept walking around the plane and I thought he might be dangerous. I was scared, and I made a terrible mistake. Sarah, you've been with us for 8 years and your record has been excellent until today, Captain Rodriguez said, shaking his head sadly. But what you did was completely unacceptable. Assaulting a passenger is grounds for immediate termination and possibly criminal charges. Please, Captain, I need this job. My mother is sick and I have bills to pay. I promise it will never happen again, Sarah begged through her tears. I'm sorry, Sarah, but I have no choice. You're suspended immediately pending a full investigation. HR will contact you about the next steps, and Sarah, you should probably get a lawyer. That passenger has every right to press charges against you. Sarah left the airport feeling completely defeated. Her life was falling apart and it was all her own fault. She drove home in her rental car, crying the whole way. Meanwhile, the videos of the incident were already spreading rapidly on social media. Someone had posted a video on Twitter with the caption, Flight attendant goes crazy and slaps innocent passenger for no reason. Within hours, it had thousands of views and hundreds of angry comments. This is disgusting. Fire her immediately, wrote one person. Poor man was just walking around and got attacked by airline staff. Sue them, wrote another. I'm never flying with Skyline Airlines again after seeing this, commented someone else. The story was picked up by local news stations, then national news networks. By the next morning, flight attendant slaps passenger was trending on social media, and Skyline Airlines customer service phones were ringing nonstop with angry calls from the public. Sarah woke up to find reporters outside her apartment building. Her phone had hundreds of missed calls and text messages. Her neighbor knocked on her door to tell her that her face was all over the morning news. Sarah, you need to see this, her roommate Lisa said, showing her the television. The news anchor was saying, a Skyline Airlines flight attendant was caught on video assaulting a passenger yesterday. The airline has confirmed that the employee has been suspended pending investigation. They showed the blurred video of Sarah slapping the passenger, along with interviews from other passengers who were on the flight. Every single person said the same thing. The man had done nothing wrong, and Sarah's behavior was completely out of line. He seemed like such a nice, quiet man, said one passenger. He wasn't bothering anyone. The flight attendant just lost her mind for no reason. Sarah felt sick watching the coverage. The whole world was seeing her worst moment and everyone was condemning her. She had become the villain in a story that was spreading everywhere. But what Sarah didn't know was that Robert Chen was not just any ordinary passenger. His calm reaction to being slapped wasn't just because he was a kind person. There was a much bigger reason why he remained so composed. And when the truth came out, it would shock everyone who had heard this story. 3 days after the incident, Sarah received a phone call that would change everything. It was from Marcus Thompson, a reporter from Channel 7 News, and he sounded excited about something. Ms. Mitchell, I've been investigating your story and I think you need to know who you actually slapped on that airplane, Marcus said urgently. What do you mean? Sarah asked, confused and tired from days of hiding from reporters and dealing with angry phone calls. The passenger you hit, Robert Chen, isn't just some random traveler. I did some research after the airline gave me his name for my story, and you're not going to believe what I found out. Sarah's heart started beating faster. What did you find? Robert Chen is the founder and CEO of Chen Industries, one of the biggest companies in America. His net worth is estimated at over $2.8 billion. He's one of the richest men in the country, and you slapped him on an airplane. Sarah nearly dropped the phone. She felt dizzy and had to sit down. That's impossible. He was dressed so simply, just a t-shirt and jeans. He looked like a regular person. That's exactly what makes this story so incredible. Marcus continued. Robert Chen is famous for living simply despite his wealth. He drives old cars, wears regular clothes, and flies in economy class, even though he could afford to buy his own airline. He's known for being humble and down to earth. Sarah couldn't believe what she was hearing. The quiet man she had thought was suspicious was actually one of the most powerful people in America. She had assaulted a billionaire in front of 180 witnesses. There's more, Marcus said. I called Chen Industries for a comment about the incident. His spokesperson said that Mr. Chen was on his way to Miami to personally deliver a $50 million donation to a children's hospital. He had been walking around the plane because he was nervous about giving a speech to the doctors and patients. Sarah started crying again. Not only had she attacked an innocent man, but she had hit someone who was traveling to help sick children. She felt like the worst person in the world. Ms. Mitchell, are you still there? Marcus asked. Yes, I'm here, Sarah whispered through her tears. Here's the thing that makes this story even more amazing. When I spoke to Mr. Chen's office, they said he doesn't want to press charges against you. He told his lawyers that everyone makes mistakes, and he doesn't want to ruin your life over one bad moment. Sarah was shocked. After everything she had done, this man was still being kind to her. She had never met anyone so forgiving, especially someone with the power to destroy her life completely. But wait, there's something else, Marcus continued. I also found out why Mr. Chen was really walking around the plane. It wasn't just nervousness about his speech. What do you mean? Sarah asked. Mr. Chen has a condition called restless leg syndrome. It's a medical condition that makes it very difficult for him to sit still for long periods. His doctor actually recommends that he get up and walk around during long flights to prevent blood clots and manage his symptoms. Sarah felt like she was going to be sick. She had slapped a man who was only walking around because of a medical condition. Every assumption she had made about Robert Chen had been completely wrong. Mr. Chen's assistant told me that he always informs the flight crew about his condition before takeoff. But apparently there was some kind of communication error that day. The information never reached you or the other flight attendants. Sarah remembered that she had been late to work that day and had missed the pre-flight briefing where such information would normally be shared. Her bad morning had led to a chain of misunderstandings that resulted in this terrible situation. Ms. Mitchell, I'm planning to run this story tomorrow night. The public has been very angry with you, but when people learn the truth about who Mr. Chen is and how forgiving he's being, I think the narrative might change. After hanging up the phone, Sarah sat in her apartment, overwhelmed by emotions. Shame, guilt, gratitude, and disbelief all mixed together. She had attacked one of the most successful and generous people in America, someone who was traveling to help children, someone with a medical condition that explained his behavior completely. But even more incredible was his response. Despite having the power and resources to ruin her life, Robert Chen was choosing forgiveness and kindness instead. Sarah realized that she needed to do something to make this right, but she had no idea how to even begin apologizing for such a massive mistake. The next evening, Marcus Thompson's news story aired on Channel 7, and it completely changed how the public viewed the incident. The headline read, Flight attendant slaps billionaire philanthropist who was flying to donate $50 million to children's hospital. The story revealed everything. Robert Chen's identity, his medical condition, his reason for traveling to Miami, and most importantly, his incredibly forgiving response to being assaulted. Social media exploded with shock and amazement. I can't believe she slapped a billionaire and he's not even pressing charges, wrote one person on Twitter. This man was going to help sick children and got attacked for having a medical condition. But he's still being kind about it, what a saint, commented another. Robert Chen is a better person than I would be. I would have sued for everything she's worth, someone else posted. But the most surprising reaction came from people who started defending Sarah. Many viewers felt terrible for her after learning the full story. This poor woman made a mistake based on misunderstandings. She thought she was protecting the plane, wrote a sympathetic commenter. Everyone has bad days. She lost control for one moment and now her life is ruined. At least the man she hit is being forgiving, added another. Sarah watched the news coverage from her apartment, amazed at how different the story sounded when all the facts were revealed. But she still felt terrible about what she had done. The fact that Robert Chen was being so kind made her feel even worse about her actions. The next morning, Sarah made a decision that would take tremendous courage. She found the address for Chen Industries and wrote a heartfelt letter of apology. But she didn't just mail it. She decided to hand-deliver it personally. Taking a bus across town to the impressive Chen Industries headquarters, Sarah felt nervous and scared. The building was huge and modern, with glass walls and beautiful gardens around it. She had never been anywhere so fancy and felt completely out of place in her simple clothes. At the reception desk, Sarah asked if she could speak with Mr. Chen. The receptionist looked surprised when Sarah gave her name. "Oh, you're the flight attendant from the news," the receptionist said, not unkindly. "Mr. Chen actually left instructions that if you ever came here, we should let him know immediately." Sarah was shocked. Robert Chen had been expecting her to come. After waiting for 20 minutes, a well-dressed woman approached her. "Ms. Mitchell, I'm Jennifer Park, Mr. Chen's assistant. He would like to meet with you privately in his office." Sarah followed Jennifer to an elevator that took them to the top floor of the building. The offices were beautiful, with expensive artwork and huge windows overlooking the city. But what surprised Sarah most was how simple and modest Robert Chen's personal office was compared to the rest of the building. Robert Chen stood up from behind a basic wooden desk when Sarah entered. He looked exactly the same as he had on the airplane. Simple clothes, kind eyes, and a gentle expression. The only difference was that he was in his own environment, where his true importance was obvious. "Ms. Mitchell, thank you for coming," he said warmly, as if she was a welcome guest instead of someone who had assaulted him. "Mr. Chen, I am so incredibly sorry," Sarah began, her voice shaking with emotion. "I had no idea who you were, but that doesn't excuse what I did. I was having a terrible day and I let my fears and stress make me act in a way that was completely wrong." Robert Chen gestured for her to sit down in a comfortable chair across from his desk. "Please, call me Robert. And Sarah, may I call you Sarah? I want you to know that I don't hold any anger toward you." Sarah started crying. "But I hit you in front of all those people. I was supposed to take care of passengers, and instead I attacked you. You were just trying to manage your medical condition and I made terrible assumptions." "Sarah, I've been thinking about our encounter for days now," Robert said thoughtfully. "What happened between us was the result of many small mistakes and misunderstandings that added up to one big problem. You didn't receive information about my medical condition. I should have explained my situation better when you first approached me. You were having a difficult day and felt threatened by behavior you didn't understand." Sarah was amazed by his wisdom and kindness. Here was a man with incredible power and influence, and he was treating her with more respect and understanding than she deserved. "I've learned something important from this experience," Robert continued. "Sometimes the people who make the biggest mistakes are the ones who care the most about doing the right thing. You thought you were protecting other passengers. Your intentions were good even though your actions were wrong." Through her tears, Sarah managed to ask, "How can you be so forgiving? I've ruined my career, embarrassed myself in my airline, and caused you pain and humiliation. Why aren't you angry?" Robert Chen smiled gently and said something that would change Sarah's life forever. "Sarah, let me tell you something that might surprise you," Robert Chen said with a gentle smile. 30 years ago, I was in a very similar situation to yours, but I was on the other side of it." Sarah looked up, confused and curious about what he meant. "I was working as a security guard at a small office building to pay for college. One night I thought I saw someone breaking in, so I tackled him and called the police. It turned out to be the building owner who had forgotten his keys and was trying to get into his own property through a window." Robert continued, "I was so embarrassed and scared that I would lose my job. But instead of firing me, that man sat me down and told me that he admired my dedication to protecting his building, even though I had made a mistake. He said that people who care enough to take action even when they're wrong are the kind of people he wanted working for him. Sarah listened intently as Robert's story continued. That building owner saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. He helped me get a better job, encouraged me to finish college, and eventually became my mentor in business. Without his forgiveness and guidance, I never would have become successful. He taught me that how we respond to other people's mistakes says more about who we are than the mistakes themselves. Sarah began to understand why Robert was being so kind to her, but she never expected what he said next. Sarah, I've been thinking about you since that day on the airplane. I've spoken with former passengers who were on that flight, and several of them told me about other times you helped them during flights. One woman said you stayed with her sick child for an entire flight. A man told me you helped him when he was afraid of flying after his wife died. Sarah was shocked that Robert had taken the time to research her background and talk to people about her work. You made one mistake during 8 years of excellent service. You were trying to protect people even though you were wrong about the situation. That tells me you have the kind of character I value. Someone who cares about others and is willing to take action to help them. Robert stood up and walked around his desk to sit in the chair next to Sarah. I have a proposition for you. I know that Skyline Airlines had to let you go, and I know you're worried about your future. I would like to offer you a job with Chen Industries. Sarah's mouth fell open. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. We have a corporate travel department that manages flights for our employees around the world. We need someone with your experience and, more importantly, someone with your heart. You would be helping our team members travel safely and comfortably, and you would be training others in customer service. Mr. Chen, Robert, I don't know what to say, Sarah stammered. After what I did to you, you want to give me a job? Sarah, everyone deserves a second chance. More than that, I believe your experience will make you better at your new job, not worse. You've learned from your mistake in a way that will help you understand and help others better. Sarah started crying again, but this time they were tears of joy and gratitude. I promise you won't regret this decision. I will work harder than anyone to prove that your faith in me is justified. I know you will, Robert said with confidence. 6 months later, Sarah was thriving in her new position at Chen Industries. She had developed new training programs for customer service that were being used throughout the company. Her experience on the airplane, as painful as it was, had taught her valuable lessons about not making assumptions about people and the importance of clear communication. Robert Chen and Sarah had become friends, and she often joined him on his trips to visit the children's hospitals and schools that his foundation supported. She had learned that his simple appearance and humble manner weren't an act. He genuinely believed that treating everyone with respect and kindness was more important than showing off his wealth. The story of their encounter became famous as an example of forgiveness and second chances. Sarah often spoke at conferences about customer service, sharing her story as a lesson about the dangers of making quick judgments about people and the power of admitting mistakes. Looking back, Sarah realized that the worst day of her life had actually led to the best opportunity she had ever received. She had learned that sometimes our biggest failures can become our greatest successes if we're willing to learn from them and accept help from unexpected sources. Robert Chen's kindness had not only given her a second chance at a career, but had also restored her faith in the goodness of people. She never forgot that a moment of poor judgment had been met with extraordinary grace, and she tried to pass that same spirit of forgiveness on to others whenever she had the opportunity. The incident that could have ruined both of their lives instead became a story that inspired thousands of people to believe in the power of forgiveness, understanding, and second chances.